Welcome, it's Monday the 25th of November 2019, and today on the Surplus Prepper channel that we're going to discuss BoBs. Mondays are going to be related to BoBs, which are the bug out bags. I'm basically going to base this off of Creek Stewart's book that I accidentally found while going through the local library and was looking for something else, and came across this book called Build the Perfect Bug Out Bag by Creek Stewart. Most of you have probably seen and heard Creek Stewart on the Weather Channel. I think it's during like storm stories, events where people have gotten into sticky situations, and as they kind of go through the show, he kind of gives a survival tactics of how to survive those particular incidents. So some of you may have seen him, and we are going to try to see if we can get him on a call-in at some point near the end of going through this book. I'm going to take this book and break it down into, each chapter we're going to try to do a video on until we complete the book. The fact that, bug out bags are a very essential part of anybody that does prepping, and if anybody that does prepping, whether or not you're prepping for an SHTF or you're just prepping for the next hurricane that comes through, you're essentially as a prepper, and either you have a bug out bag or you have bug out boxes, bug out totes to where you can load up and get out of the area. I have a friend who has specific totes that when a hurricane comes into the Gulf, they are moved into the garage to where they can back up to the garage, open the garage door, load these totes in, and they're either westbound or northbound away from the Houston area. Can't blame them, as in the previous hurricanes that have come through. So, with this, we're going to talk about the BoBs, because we want to go through, because I'm hearing a lot of things in regards to what BoBs should have in them. And I have heard where a particular prepper group leader has said, if your bug out bag is not identical to mine, don't bother sticking around. And I just kind of scratched my head and was just kind of like, okay, I mean, that would be like sitting there telling the military, like in the Army, as an Army veteran, everybody's stuff has to be the same, but yet at the end of the day, your radio operators, like I was, had to carry additional equipment on top of that military issued gear, as well as the medical people. They've got to carry medical bags and stuff to help in beyond what an IFCAC bag would be. So you can't just sit there and say that a bug out bag has to be identical to everything, every situation, because it's not. A bug out bag here in Texas could have stuff pertaining to inclement weather from a hurricane versus a bug out bag from Washington State that not only would probably have the inclement weather, but also stuff for dealing with earthquakes. So there's some things that you have to prepare for, and you can't just sit there and say a broad base across the board, a bug out bag has to be this way. And that's one of the things that we will discuss in going through Creek Stewart's book and this video series. So don't sit there and think that, oh, well, I gotta have a bag just like Johnny over here, or that, oh, Susie's got this perfect bag that she got from REI. Don't go down that road. Listen to what we're going to tell you through this book, because again, if there was a simple, easy bug out bag, Walmart would have it for $59.99 on the shelf that you could buy it and then pack up and go right then and there. That's not the case. These things are having to be built to your specific situation for you and your life and or family. So do not think that you have to do exactly like everybody else. disasters. You know, in the last 20 years, we all know earthquakes, you know, tornadoes, hurricanes, gamut of things that can go wrong in a split second. So when it's time to where you can't, you know, you decide that, hey, I cannot stay here where I'm at, it's time to go and I need to get somewhere. The bug out bag is designed to be a 72-hour basically self-rescuing tool to get you through the next 72 hours to get you from point A to point B in a safe manner. So therefore, you know, when you're dealing with disasters, you know, plan accordingly. Don't just use, you know, well, Walmart will be open and I can run down and grab stuff from Walmart. Well, as many people have seen, you know, things can change instantly here in the Texas area, that Walmarts can be out of stuff quickly, and or the fact the roads are so congested that you can't get through to even get to Walmart. So therefore, you know, this is why having a bug out bag is essential, so that way you can survive at least for the first 72 hours until you can get another plan put together to extend living beyond what you need at that time. So, you know, with that, you know, we're going to sit here and try to do different things to teach everybody this. Now, Creek Steward does have a particular website and a training system that you can go and train with him, and I will post that link in the description down below. So make sure that, you know, we're able to look at different avenues. Don't just take my word or Creek Steward's word. Go research. You know, this is the thing. Research what is best for you. You know, what fits for you. Because what fits for me may not fit for somebody else. Case in point, you know, as you can see, I have an Alice pack here, you know, from the military, that I'm used to this. So I'm kind of partial to a setup with this bag versus buying a $60 bag from REI. After 8 years in the Army, that I can sit here and put this together and be able to survive with what I need in any point that comes up of whether I need to leave, or just even for a day bag just to go somewhere, you know, for a couple of days or so. I can almost take this with me and survive on it, come back, wash clothes, add more food back to it, and I'm good to go again. So, you know, this is why we say do not just take anybody's particular word for, well, you got to have this in it, because you may not need that. So, you know, we're going to go through and, you know, discuss some of these things. The Bob is supposed to, you know, provide you with just basic, you know, necessities of what you need to get through for 72 hours. It is not something that, you know, is for, as Creek Steward says, you know, if everything was easy, it would be a camping trip. You know, that's planned. That's, you know, everything is set up and it's supposed to be enjoyable. When a bug out situation comes up, it's usually not a comfortable situation. So you want to be able to move from point A to point B, and unfortunately you're not going to have the queen size bed with the, you know, pillow top mattress on it to support your back. So if you have back problems, you may need to kind of adjust of how you're going to sleep for the next 72 hours until you can get to whatever place you need to get to. So make sure you plan accordingly. You know, that's the thing. You know, planning. You know, this, you know, process of bugging out is not a simple, well, you know, flip gets switched and a light comes on. You know, that's not the way bug out works. Bug out is basically flip gets switched, the light doesn't come on, and now you got to go to plan B, and things can change along the way. So with that, you know, one of the things that your Bob is an investment. This is not a simple, well, again, the $59.99 at Walmart, you can go grab the bag and you're good to go. You just can't do that. This is something that you have to work with. You have to, tailor to what you need and what your family's needs are, because you may be a single guy like myself. If it's just me, that's not a problem. I can pack my bag for just me. Now, if I have a wife and kids, now I got to pack and accordingly set up to, not only just me, but for my wife and for my kids. So, how do you do that? And how do you divide everything up to make sure that everything is brought so that way you can manage for the next 72 hours? So, taking the time, the Bob is kind of like a relationship. You have to work on it, you have to build on it, you have to spend time with it, and yes, it's going to be a little costly in some areas, and that's where you need to weigh those pros and cons of quality versus quantity versus cost. What is maybe a dollar item, when there's a $3 item, well, which one is the better of the two? So you may have to do trial and error, check a few things out, spend that $5 and figure out, okay, yeah, the dollar ones are, poo-poo and don't depend on them. The $3 ones are better. And then there's other times where the $3 are poo-poo, dollar is better. Check things out. Take the time to practice with them so that way what will work, what won't work, what you should put in your bag and what you shouldn't. So again, treat the bag as like an insurance policy. Case in point with the fire service. Just on the other side of this camera, on the other side of the wall, is a $300,000 fire truck. Now, mind you, a lot of places now require fire extinguishers in the residences, especially mobile homes, depending on the areas that you live in. That $50 fire extinguisher may not seem like much, but here's the thing. That $50 fire extinguisher within 30 seconds can be deployed and knock out a pretty good sized fire inside of a, let's take a 1,200 square foot home where, a waste basket has caught fire because somebody threw a lit cigarette butt in there and not realizing it was still lit. The fact that that $50 fire extinguisher just saved thousands of dollars of restoration of the house, because it takes over 10 minutes for a firefighter to be toned out from the 911 center to get to the fire truck, then for the fire truck to go 10 minutes from the fire station to the scene. You now have 20 minutes that have elapsed at that point. Well, and anybody in the fire service will know that if you leave a fire unchecked inside of a burning room, and let's just say a bedroom, every 6 minutes that fire is growing twice the size that it originally was. So when you start sitting there talking about 6 minutes, and then you're talking 20 minutes, that fire has pretty much done a lot of damage to the structure of that building. That they may be able to condemn that building to where you cannot live in it, even though nothing else in the building other than that 10 by 10 room was destroyed. Where with the fire extinguisher, you could come in, knock the fire out right at the waste can, and guess what? The building's not condemned. You might have to clear out the smoke, you might have to go through with a few things, but that $50 just saved that $300,000 apparatus from doing more damage than what originally was done. So again, the Bob, this is your investment. This is the 72-hour grace that you're going to have to go from point A to point B and make everything count to make you survive for those 72 hours or 3 days.